So did you hear about these this
Gambling
NFL
stories.
gambling
Yeah.
stuff? That they
Mhm.
were getting all these anonymous players were talking about
Yeah.
that these rules were not as clear to them as possible, or
Yeah.
as they might have been presented in some way. I'm not
Right.
totally sure how I feel about it. So
Yeah.
I'm going to read some of these quotes here. This is from
Mhm.
anonymous players. This is from an article from USA Today, quoting an article
Okay.
from The Athletic. So,
Oh, well.
plagiarizing all around. That's
well.
bogus because straight up, that's not talked about like that. That could have been any of us, one player said about the Lions suspensions. You can make the argument for everybody because people are betting during rivalry week. Florida is playing Florida State, Ohio State versus Michigan. Everyone is betting on that. Could all those guys get in trouble? And I think they're probably, whoever this player is, I think they're
Yeah.
probably telling the truth. Because it is pretty unbelievable to believe that, at least in
Yeah.
JMO's case, he was not betting on games that he was in. Obviously, he
Yeah.
was betting on college football games.
Mhm.
And unlike that, who's that Colts player who just got caught? I think it was yesterday
I heard
or today.
about that.
He was betting
Yeah,
on games that he was. It's like,
that
dude,
that he
it's
was
like,
in.
have you heard of Pete Rose? Does the name sound familiar? Like, he's banned
Yeah.
from the Hall of Fame of baseball because he bet on games that he was in.
Yeah.
It's like, dude, have a little bit of common sense. And it's like, regardless of what you feel about the gambling rules, at the very least, the no gambling in the NFL, at least that makes some sense.
It
right?
says very clearly no.
Well, it's
don't do
like
it.
you don't have. It's like you can understand somebody making that argument. Hey, we don't want people betting on the NFL because you have some sort of insider influence and you could potentially alter the game in some way, right?
Correct.
That makes some sense.
Yes.
And even to some extent, I can somewhat understand the other stuff. Like, you just don't want them involved at all because either way, they're celebrities, right? So they probably know a lot of the other athletes anyway. But
Correct.
again, it's like, regardless of how you feel about these rules, it seems like, apparently, according to some of these players, it's not as clear as people were making it out. Or like, because that was like one of the things is like, as soon as the suspensions came down, people, especially around here, were they're hammering this into you. Everybody should know it. There's no excuse to not know it, and especially after he said he didn't even know about the rule, which I think he shouldn't have said. This is just a stupid thing to say. You should just say you made a mistake. Don't say that you didn't know the rule because that's going to make you look like an idiot. Whether or not he actually is an idiot is neither here nor there.
Right.
But you're giving them ammo. And
exactly.
I don't know. I mean, I think my opinion hasn't really changed that much. It's like, well, ignorance of the law is not an excuse to break the law.
Exactly.
So, either he or his agent should have read these papers that they're given to all these players that say, you're not allowed to gamble on facilities. So, either get a new agent or learn to read. I mean, like, it sucks. Like, the thing is, it would be frustrating to me if this came out about another player and the suspension was lighter. But that doesn't really seem like that's the case. It seems like they're. I mean, I don't know what's going to happen with this. Excuse me, with this other guy. I don't even know his name.
I don't know either. I think he was a running back.
Yeah, I don't remember what he was. He was on the Colts. That's all that I know, is that he was on the Indianapolis Colts. I remember when that story was like they first leaked. They were like, "Oh, it could be another Lions player." It's like,
and you're like,
it's like, okay, but they mentioned that he was not a major factor on the team at all. So okay, he might not even be on the team anymore. And I guess it wasn't even a Lions player. Like,
so it didn't matter.
So it's like, okay, unless he was on the practice squad or something. Like, I don't remember his name clearly. So, but I don't know. I mean, I think these rules, these gambling rules, they're kind of here to stay. And
I think they are as well.
At this point, if you're a player, right, and this is a PSA to all NFL players or aspiring NFL players, here's what I want you to do. I want you to go on your little cellular telephone, okay? Just go on your cellular telephone, and I want you to go into your little home screen, and if you have FanDuel or BetMGM or DraftKings or any of these, what you're going to want to do is you want to hold on to your home screen, and you want to hit the X when the app starts shaking. The apps are going to start shaking. Hit the X and then hit delete and then like confirm or whatever, and then put the phone down and never install those apps. And what even more that you could do, you should stop watching any of the bet shows that are on TV now. Don't look at the odds. Don't ask people for the odds. Don't make sports betting in your world illegal. Make it like how it was a few years ago when it was illegal, at least in the state of Michigan. It was illegal for some time. Go back to live. I know it's not that in reality, but I want you to play pretend with me. Okay. We're going to pretend that it is. So we're going to delete it all. We're not going to look at it. We're not going to listen to it. We're going to do nothing. It's just gone. And like that really isn't that high of a bar. Like that isn't that high of a thing for me to ask, right?
It's really not.
It's like
it seems pretty simple and like you just do it.
Yeah, I don't bet on sports. Do you bet on sports, Seth?
I have, but not like consistently.
Yeah, like I don't really care that much about it. I don't think it's like I think it's a little the commercials are annoying. I've said to you I've said to you I would be okay with them banning it simply to just get rid of the commercials. I'm not making a judgment on the value or the question of whether or not there's some, I don't know, some right to be able to bet on sports. I'm not making a judgment on that at all. I am simply saying the commercials are so bad, we need to ban this. That's how this is very
some
personal
of them
to
are
me.
Quite interesting.
Yeah. It's always, oh gosh. Anyways. And so I wanted to just wrap that up with, I don't think they're going to take away Jameson Williams' suspension. I saw some people who were like, "Oh, they're going to have to make it." It's like, guys, that doesn't happen. That literally, no. I don't think that has ever happened. And the only way I could ever see something like that happening is like, let's say some player, I don't know, somebody accused them of some crime. I don't know. Let's say they got accused of a generic one. Let's say they got accused of rape, right?
Sure.
Okay. And then, they were like, okay, preliminarily, we're going to suspend you for the year. And then like 2 weeks later, actually, it's not, there was evidence that proves that he didn't do it. Maybe I could see them dropping the suspension. And that's like, I can't even tell, like, which is funny, right? Given like, it's like there would be an exoneration and I'm still not totally convinced they would like back down. Because the NFL, it's like, again, for better or for worse, when they make a decision on somebody's suspension, they stick to it. They did, I mean, except for Deshaun Watson, they upped that a little bit. But I think I have a theory about that. And I think I told you this at the time, or maybe I didn't. So it came out initially and it was like, not enough. Like people were totally outraged that this was the suspension.
They were.
And then they like upped it, a couple of weeks later or something. Now my theory is, they already were going to have it as the one that they ended up with. Okay. And so what they did, it's like the Sonic movie where they're, I'll get into that for afterwards if you don't understand what I mean by that. So like, they're like, we're so sorry. We're going to make it more. See, look, we did it. Look, we made it better. To elaborate on that Sonic movie reference. So I think that the ugly Sonic thing, I think that was a total psyop. I think that was totally fake. They were never going to do that. That was they made that on purpose to get people to talk about the movie and say how terrible it was, and then they could be like, "Oh, look, we fixed it. What? Isn't that nice of it?" It's like, no, it was never broken. You intentionally made a fake ugly Sonic.
It is an interesting
on top of making the real Sonic, because it's like, what do you mean? Like when you make a movie trailer, pretty much the movie is done.
It's done.
Like, so it was already it was kind of weird when they were like, "Oh, we're going to change it." It's like, what do you mean you're going to change it? You'd have to go back and remake the entire movie. So that's my theory about that.
It's an interesting theory.
And I think it's a similar, I think it's the same thing with the NFL in that particular case.
I'd have to agree with that.
It's something to kind of like, it pushes the blame off of it because it's like, look, we made it worse. You can get mad at somebody else. Well, we did our best, which they didn't, obviously. But like they made it. It's like it pushes the blame off of them. So.
Yeah, that's what it is. It's like it's getting rid of like you said, there's the blame. It's just not here. It's now over there.
Yeah.
Pushed out.
Yeah.
So